If you're going to Celtic Park, then why not visit the Paradise Bar, where you can find live music before every game. The friendly staff will serve you your favourite tipple at competitive prices. So get yourself along to the Paradise Bar, 65 Tollcross Road, just down from Parkhead Cross and 2 minutes from the stadium. Free function hire is also available. The Paradise Bar. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Billy Noel. Welcome to Desert Island Tim's. Today I'm going to look back to the replies that some of my guests gave to my favourite question. What irritates you? I hope you enjoy.
Cliff Richard.
Cliff Richard? Well, you've just lost half my fans there.
Cliff Richard really does irritate me. That's a good one. Cliff Richard I can't stand. I really, if he's on the TV, it'll ruin my day. I can't stand Cliff Richard. He's just a horrible, slimy. I mean, it's like nails in a blackboard to me, Cliff Richard.
Why did you pick Congratulations as your next song?
Bruce Forsyth. He's got a face like a ski jump. There's never been a more irritating individual on this earth than Bruce Forsyth. Nice to see you, have him shot. I cannot abide Bruce Forsyth, and I could now go on for hours and hours and hours about why I don't like Bruce Forsyth, but he is top of the list. He couldn't annoy me more if he donned a royal blue jumper and turned out at Ibrox next week. He is the worst individual on this earth. Strictly bugger off. I cannot abide Bruce Forsyth. Ask me something else, because this will be a rant.
I'm quite interested why you don't like Bruce Forsyth, because so many people think he's fantastic. You've been very unfair to the man.
I'm being polite about him. Listen, I heard Paul Larkin on here telling his stories about being in New York and stuff like that. In my past life, one of them, people say, what do you do? And I sometimes say, I used to be a solicitor, but I'm all right now. But in one of those experiences, I helped to open a chicken restaurant for two guys, one of whom was a perfectly plausible academic type Scottish guy who had an Iranian brother-in-law. Now I forget the first name of the Iranian brother-in-law, but this Iranian brother-in-law had a brother whose first name, as I recall, was Ziggy, and he introduced himself straight up as a hitman. What do you do for a living? Oh, I am a hitman. You have any problem with anyone, I sort for you £500. And in those days you were dead busy and kind of doing whatever you do as a practicing solicitor. And I could never think of anything that I would ever need this hitman for. But 20 years on, Bruce Forsyth comes to mind. I think you would get an OBE for actually taking away Bruce Forsyth. He is the most irritating, annoying individual who's ever walked on the face of the earth. Now, he might be a lovely man, but he just gets right in my wick, in case you can't get that vibe. No, I would do away with Bruce Forsyth. I don't mean I'd do him any physical harm, but God in his wisdom has made a few mistakes in his time. The emu is one. I mean, there is no point to the emu. It's a strange thing. But I can't stand Bruce Forsyth. I also don't like arrogant people, and I was told a story about Bruce Forsyth because he plays a lot of golf and lots of people come and ask for autographs. Anyway, he walks about with a pad with signature on it, and if you ask him for an autograph, he just takes off a piece of paper and gives it to you. Sorry, he's not for me, I'm afraid. So that annoys me. Beyond that, nothing. Don't like prejudice. I don't like all the normal things. You know, I also don't like people that moan too much, but I'm the world's best moaner myself.
I think I've probably arrived at a time in my life where I can be described as a grumpy old man. I didn't think I'd ever get here, but this question's made me reflect on that, and I quite clearly have become a grumpy old man because I'm irritated by almost anything at the moment. I'm irritated by bad manners. And I don't mean the band, I mean actual bad manners. Wee daft things, you know, you hold the door open for somebody and they walk right through it and they don't say thanks very much. And I feel like slamming it in their curtain, you know. You know, things like that, you know, I'm irritated even in the taxi where people get in and they just sit the whole time on their mobile phone and they don't, you know, there's no please or thank you, or they issue instructions and they get out and bang the... Just bad manners, you know, just things like that. I'm irritated sometimes when I go you know, maybe at restaurants and stuff like that, and you sometimes see some of the younger ones, and you know, they order up and they don't thank the waiter for putting the stuff down and taking their plates away, and just common courtesy and a lack of that at the moment.
Aye.
I don't know if there's always been a lack of that, maybe with the younger generation, and when I was young we were told to say please and thank you and acknowledge. We're always told to always treat people the way you would want them to treat you, and I think that's a great mantra for going through life, and I think there's a real lack of that at the moment, and that irritates the hell out of me. What irritates me? Bad manners. I do not like people with bad manners. I think it's so wrong. I was brought up in the mountain. My parents brought me up right. You know, just simple things. Open the door for women, and you know, and if you do something, say sorry. You know, it's nothing. Doesn't cost you nothing. And you know, it's just a trait that I've been up, and what irritates me in the football field is seeing people not getting 100%.
Yeah.
If I see people not chasing balls, or I'm just, maybe it's just because I done it. I chased everything. But my teammates, I know how much my teammates like that. You know, because sometimes they can't play the perfect pass. You know, and sometimes they're under pressure and they just got to smash it out and turn a bad ball into a good ball. That's what I always said. You know, and it was fortunate because all my teammates liked that, and that was a trait that every club I've been at, I always done that. Made sure we defended from the front and all that kind of stuff, and I like seeing that in teams. You know, I made a statement a couple of weeks ago that it was football is now middle class to upper class. I still stick by that. You know, I don't see the hunger for, you know, my company, we look after wee Dylan McGhee at Celtic Park, and Dylan's from where I come from, and he's got that hunger inside him.
Yeah.
He's got a great desire and a passion to go far, and I don't know if I see that with the rest of the boys. You know, I'm not saying they're not good players, but see when you lose the ball, nobody shouts in balls anymore.
Exactly.
You know, and that's because it's middle way upper class. It's because they're not brought for the same. They're all athletes. Wee Scotty Brown's got it. You know, he's on his game. He niggles people, and I know he's opposition. I like that. You know, I like that wee bit of devil about him.
Right.
And you know, and that's what I'd like to see more players get. I'd like to see more players get a wee bit of that arrogance, you know, that Celtic always had. I don't see that. That's teams are coming to Celtic Park now and they're not scared.
Yeah.
And that's because we've not got the arrogance, you know. I think we've got to get that back. And Lenny had the arrogance, when he played. You know, he walked about and thinking he owned the place, you know, he still does. but you know, he had that arrogance on the part, and that general. But there was so many generals up to him, up to that. I mean, Sutton, John Hartson, Henrik, every single one of them all fought for each other. You know, Lenny, Stan, Petrov, midfield, it was like, you know, if they lost the ball, Big Johan at the back, jeez, you know, you'd no way they're not shouting and bawling if you lose the ball.
That's right.
So when did it stop? I don't know when, but I would like to see that back. I would like to see, we used to argue before we went out, we used to argue at half time. That was a passion of it, and 9 out of 10 we got the results we wanted.
Yeah.
And I would hope to bring that back. So that irritates me, that I don't see enough passion, because I see it in supporters. Sometimes I don't see it in the players. I see it in the management, definitely.
Yeah.
And I see it in some players, but I'd like to see it in every player.
I talked about liking my TV and film. One thing that irritates me more so now, I suppose it does sort of tap into the not thinking properly of others, but it's more of a condescending, patronising attitude to others about it, is modern TV. When you and I were growing up, Billy, there was a man sat behind the desk. He was an important man, and he told us the news, and he sat still, and he told us what was important in the world that was going on. I don't want that guy walking around the studio. See, right now, while you and I are speaking, you are not wandering around this room, or I'm not wandering around this room talking to you, giving you this answer. I'm sitting down because you've asked me a question and I'm giving you an answer, and out of manners I'm sitting still so that doesn't bug the hell out of you, right? It's based around this modern idea, I think, that because people have got no attention span, we've got to keep everything moving fast.
Yeah.
You can just imagine the room. So we need to make everything move fast. But this is the news. We can't move it fast. We just got to deliver it as we deliver it. Well, what we could do is we could have the guy standing up 1 minute, sitting down the next minute, person on the head of the desk the next minute, holding a piece of paper the other. No, I want to think that guy knows what he's talking about and is just telling me the information. And so they've then extended that to interviews. So you and I are sitting talking to one another. If I was interviewing somebody for a job, we'd be sitting opposite one another, talking. If I went to see the bank manager, we'd be sitting talking to one another. Having a chat with my mates. We sit chatting over food or a bite to eat or a drink or whatever. This thing about TV cameras have got to pan around the room all the time and zoom in and out. I mean, if I'm talking to you at the moment, I'm not running towards you right up to your face and running back down again and running to the corner of the room and back in again. So why do they think when I'm sitting watching the television and somebody's being interviewed that I need to have the camera spinning round the room and zooming in and out of the guy's face? As you can tell, that's something else that sort of bugs me a wee bit and irritates me.
Oh, loads, Billy. Absolute loads. I could go on all day. I listened to various guys on this show and tells you there was one that actually let Bruce Forsyth irritate him. Now, come on, Bruce is a lovely man. How could we? You know, I mean, that man that came away with that one must have been on drink or drugs or something. We all love Bruce. Anyway, but there's funny things that irritate me. Do you know? I mean, there's a guy who puts videos out. Billy Noel, it irritates me because he doesn't put enough out. I just don't think he's working hard enough to do it. And then he's got a radio show. Could have had more guests on by now, surely, because he's a popular chap. But loads of other things irritate me. It's my lack of having money irritates me. I don't know, I can't go for a pint. My wife, she's always telling me, nah, you're not going out. That irritates me. I don't know if it's her that's irritating me or I'm irritating her, but 31 years married, you know, 32 actually. Gee whiz, I could have done murder and a bank robbery and I'd have been out by now. But anyway.
I can't bear to sit in a room where the curtains are closed and there's a gap in it. I can't bear the overuse of Americanisms. Right. When the Waynes come to my door and say trick or treat, I just say I'm not an American and I won't give them anything until they sing a song or tell me a joke, in which case I'll give them something. But I can't abide on like sleepovers and all that nonsense. Like you're getting to stay with your pal, or what's the other one? What's the one where you're kept in? You're snubbed. What is it people call that? Oh, grounded. Yeah, grounded. I just don't have that. They get snubbed or they get kept in, but they do not get grounded. So I hate all of that. Don't like people chewing in front of me. I think that's horrible. Littering, no, that actually comes down to it's more serious. Littering is serious, right? I'm very funny with words. My Waynes just... I must drive them crazy. I must drive them, you know, when they say things. And it's not that I speak perfect English myself. I write perfect English, but I don't speak perfect English. But when they say, you know, oh, it's like this and it was like that, and I'm saying, well, was it that or was it just like that? You know, that sort of stuff drives the Waynes mental.
The government down at Westminster, that irritates me. I was down in London last week. My daughters just went down to London. Tory members of Parliament come up, I see George Osborne, tell people in Glasgow and Scotland what they're to do and not to do. And we've only got one MP who's a Tory in Scotland. They take all the money from Scotland, they take all our money that we should be getting in oil, and it all goes to London, and not a lot comes back to Scotland. That really irritates me. And how, not only Scotland, how they treat Newcastle and Devon and these places. Everything, the Westminster government, I'm not getting into politics or anything like that, but they take all the money off everybody and keep it for London and spend all the money in London. And they've done that for the last 300 years, and that really irritates me. But, you know, the country's in debt, of course, but if you're in debt, why not go to the richest people? Instead, they go to the poorest people and the grannies to get the money off. Why not put more VAT in diamonds and expensive things? So the rich people who can afford it are paying more VAT. They put it in milk and bread, fuel that poor people have to use. So they always go after the middle class and the working class people, and that really irritates me. Why were billions of pounds in debt You know, this Westminster government is supposed to have the best accountants, the best people to run a country. Why have we all this debt? They've got this bedroom tax now, which is a complete nonsense to get more money to pay off the debt that the bankers in this country caused. Go to the bankers and get the money off the banks. That irritates me.
My wife, she's just far too tidy for my liking. You know what I mean, mate? Too tidy, but they're all the same. But you put something down, you get it in the kitchen, you come back to get it, it's away, it's hidden. People who don't pick up dog shit, that irritates me, because I've got a dog and I'm out walking the dog and I got to pick up her dog shit and I stand in some other dog shit when I'm picking hers up, you know what I mean? So it's a nightmare, you know what I mean? But quite a lot of things I could go on for quite a long time.
Hypocrisy is the biggest sin. I hate people who say one thing and do another, who say one thing today and something different tomorrow, who say one thing here but a different thing there. I hate hypocrisy, I hate cynicism, the kind of mentality that says, well, nothing can ever change, I'm alright, Jack, look after yourself, look after number one, that kind of cynicism. This is the devil talking, and this is not what we're here for. People who not only change their political ideas, but hope that we didn't notice that they changed, never explaining why they were wrong before and they're right now, why we should have believed them before and should believe them now when they're saying something diametrically opposite. I know that you know I'm talking about Dr. John Reid, the erstwhile chairman of Glasgow Celtic, who, when I met him, was an Irish Republican, communist, hardline, Stalinist, and who has become effectively a mouthpiece for American imperialism and a betrayer of everything that Labour once stood for. And he, in a way, is a walking exemplification of cynicism and hypocrisy, because he's never once explained why we should believe him now when he was saying something completely different before. So I hate these things. Like any human being, I get irritated if somebody doesn't let me emerge onto the main road or cuts me up on the road and so on, but these irritations quickly pass. The former, however, are profound irritations and things against which I struggle.
Things really irritate me. I would like to think I'm quite a calm person. My wife will probably think totally different and say totally different. She thinks, her and the Waynes thinks I'm a crab and I'll go after my nut at anything, and that was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to stop being crabbit. But then I realised I wasn't crabbit, so I just blamed him. I says, yous must be crabbit and yous must be very sensitive because there's nothing wrong. I'm not crabbit.
This question. Right, what irritates me? Having to clean the house. It's my biggest irritation. I hate cleaning up. That's a light-hearted irritation. I hate people who don't say please and thank you. That's kind of another slightly light-hearted irritation.
Dubious penalties can irritate me as well. I suppose maybe that's another one, but unfairness irritates me. And I think in a wider context, if you like, just in life and society in general, just general unfairness, and that can be across the board. I just like to see people getting treated fairly, people getting treated properly, and I don't like more vulnerable and weaker members of society finding themselves in situations that they probably could benefit from help rather than being kicked when they're down, as it were. I'd like to see us all living in a more just and tolerant society. I think that would definitely help us, but maybe that's just a sign that I'm getting old, to be honest. What else irritates me? My daughter not tidying her room, that irritates me, definitely. Not putting things away, that definitely irritates me, aye. And rubbish TV irritates me as well, because I put on the TV of an evening and it's terrible. It's low quality, low intellect, no thought behind it, and it's no very good. So I would like a return to better quality television, definitely. I think if it wasn't for Channel 4, we probably would never watch TV. But no, that irritates me. Cheap television, and a lot of it which is a complete insult to your intelligence, to be honest with you. Scottish weather irritates me. I wish it was sunnier more often. Bad drivers irritate me as well. So I'm starting to get a wee list going now. You've got me off, got me thinking. Aye, bad drivers. There's a lot of bad drivers on the road. For a wee while I was back and forth to Edinburgh on a regular basis and encountered terrible, terrible drivers. That's another thing that annoys me. So I think they're the main things.
Irritates is maybe it's almost quite a playful thing, it's not a really important wee thing, there's things, far more serious things, which really, really wind me up or anger me, but things that irritate me, it can be really kind of just stupid stuff that shouldn't even be an issue, things like, one of the long running themes in my house is, when somebody empties the bin, do they put a new bin bag in then, or do you have to wait until the next person has a bit of rubbish that they put it in? And me and my sister have been fighting about it for years, and I think, to be honest, we actually just do it purely to annoy each other. It's lots of wee things, there's nothing major. Just if you're ever driving in front of me, don't do anything stupid and please indicate.
If you're going to Celtic Park, then why not visit the Paradise Bar, where you can find live music before every game. The friendly staff will serve you your favourite tipple at competitive prices. So get yourself along to the Paradise Bar, 65 Tollcross Road, just down from Parkhead Cross, and 2 minutes from the stadium. Free function hire is also available. The Paradise Bar. Cheers.
Closed minds. People who know what they know and are not willing to look at what they know might be wrong. Pretty much experienced that through the Irish peace process, and I was at certain times very close to major players in that, and there had been proximity talks out in South Africa, and I was speaking to one of the senior Republicans coming back from that, and they said that one of the ANC leaders had said when they were out there was that when you enter into negotiations, you are, by going into those negotiations, accepting that you might not be completely right and the other guy might not be completely wrong. And when they were out there, the unionist delegation, despite it being proximity talks, they wanted separate accommodation, separate catering facilities. When you look at it now and how closely they work, it is remarkable the extent to which that process has moved on. Some people don't like it, some people were happy with the old certainties. If you live on the island of Ireland, as opposed to just having some bedroom posters, and as living as I do in a border county, and having regular commerce and interaction and visits with the 6 counties, and that was a product of people not having closed minds. So when I occasion across a closed mind, and there's lots of warning signs, you know immediately that you've got work to do. Now the work to do might just be to do walking away, just, say goodbye to the hand. But if you're going to try and interact, it's going to be a lot more difficult than if you're sitting with someone who's willing to listen to your point of view, willing to consider it, and willing to think, well, I don't agree with that. However, what you said made me think differently, made me look at something differently. There are many things that would irritate me on a normal daily basis, particularly just in the hours just after I woke up, like I'm notoriously grumpy. But I think that to address your question in a more reasoned way, I think the more open minds we've got around us, the better we are.
I am probably the least tolerant, patient person ever. The whole series, everything irritates me, right? Mushrooms irritate me, golf irritates me, golf clubs irritate me, the sticks that you hit the golf ball with irritate me, people who talk about golf, people who drive in the middle lane in the motorway when they said they were going to do something about that. That really, really kills me. On the A9 heading to the Highlands, where you've got these wee bursts of dual carriageway for maybe like a mile or 3/4 of a mile, lorries overtaking one another so you can't get by. That irritates the life out of me, to be honest. I sound like somebody that's writing to the BBC, why oh why, but somebody needs to do something about this. I don't know what it is. They talk about watching a road race on TV, a marathon, for example, is no interesting. And how do you get people's attention? So the old story is that every 15 minutes you shoot at the feet of the last two runners, right? That gets their attention. I think if you did something radical with people who drive in the middle lane, you would get their attention. Maybe not something as radical as shooting at their heels, incidentally. I try and be calm, but I get overly annoyed by the most unimportant things in the world, actually. I'm getting angry thinking about it.
But there are things that in general life irritate me, and the one thing that I cannot abide, never have been able to, and it really irritates me, is chewing gum. People chewing gum, especially people chewing it when they're speaking to you on the phone or when they're having a conversation with you, throwing it on the ground and seeing pavements covered in chewing gum. I would advise people to go and check out Singapore where it's banned. I think that's a good thing. I know it's supposed to be good for your teeth after you've had a meal and what have you, but if people could go and do it in the private, that would suit me a lot better than to hear them masticating away as they talk to me down the phone about something. That's the thing that really, really irritates me.
What irritates me, I suppose, are some of the things that irritate most rational human beings. Obviously, bigotry, racism, sectarianism, a lot of those isms that, shall we say, less enlightened citizens in every country in the world get up to irritate me, because if ordinary working people are going to improve their environment, their job prospects, their housing and everything else, the last thing they need is to have false divisions planted in them, scurrilous divisions like religious denomination or race, because, I'm a great believer in the old Burns adage, a man's a man for all that, and we are all God's children if you're a believer in that way, and if you're not a believer, then we are all human beings and of equal worth and equal dignity. I once heard a chap on holiday saying how much he hates Germans, and asked him how many he'd met, and he actually said that he hadn't met any. I said, well, there's 90 million out there, you should give it a try someday, you might actually surprise yourself. So that sort of small-mindedness, where whole groups are written off, I'm not a politically correct person in the sense that I know anybody can make a gaffe when they're speaking, and a lot of people are very guarded about what they say these days, Working in a school, you'll hear the odd things said by children, and you do have to quietly explain to them without being dogmatic about it, how these things can be hurtful to other people if they hear these things. Remembering that we are all human beings and not running down anybody. And I don't just mean in terms of religion and race, I mean in terms of sexual orientation, I mean in terms of how they appear, in terms of their weight and things like that. We all have feelings, and people are hurt by comments of others, and they're hurt by the systematic abuses that we see, for instance, in the Met Police over Stephen Lawrence and that sort of thing. So I think if I had to say what irritates me most, it's just people being mean to other people.
Rangers. The zombies.
I tend to find people in shops irritate me. That one still annoys me. I'll go into a shop and say I'm looking for a pair of trainers. I'll shout the assistant over. I'll show them the ones that I want. I'll ask them for a certain size. They'll go away and get them. Then when they come back, they'll say to my carer, does he want to try them on? But honestly, the amount of times it happens, it's unbelievable, and that irritates me. I've got to keep remembering that these people, they've got 30 seconds to decide how to react to my disability. I've had 6 years to get used to it. They've got to make the right decisions and deal with it in the right way, when they've maybe never come up against it before. So I've got to remember that, and I've got to try and stay chilled out. So, in terms of what irritates me, not very much, to be honest. I do still feel for some people who maybe don't have the tough skin that I do. People in my situation who might be younger are just not confident, because I know how damaging the ignorance can be. And although it doesn't bother me, I think about the number of people I've met who I know fine well, if they were in that situation, it could shatter their confidence. And when the confidence is shattered, it can lead to depression. And I've seen it so many times with people. I try and not let things bother me too much, because if I did, the list would be endless. You've really got to just shrug off, let it go over my head, and go on with things.
What bugs me is like text speak and all that, LOL and all these other 21st century kind of gibberish. I think it's fair enough if you're 15 and you're using LOL and whatever else it is you're using, I have no problem with that. But see adults that use it, see you tomorrow, C and then a U, T, MORO, LOL. I mean, apart from the fact that you're not really laughing out loud when you're saying that. I mean, LOL in my day was lots of love. So that's the way it should be. In the good old days, before mobile phones, I think the internet, I think emails, mobile phones and social media is kind of systematically destroying the English language. And again, that makes you sound a bit old, but I just think people's ability to spell, to punctuate, to know how to construct a sentence is just slowly disappearing. And you see it. I take twice as long to text because I insist on doing it properly, but even emails, sometimes job applications, people, especially if you're applying for a job as a journalist and you don't know how to, where an apostrophe should go, so that really bugs me as well. And I'm always a quandary about social media, because on the one hand I think there's loads of good things about it. I think it opens up a whole new world, and especially the likes of Twitter. Have you seen the last few years everything that's happened in Scottish football? I think it's been a real platform to allow things to get out that otherwise might have been sort of swept under the carpet. And I think there's a lot of good things. But I read a quote once and somebody said, "You're never going to get to the end of your life and wish you'd spent an extra hour on Twitter." And that's absolutely true. And I think everybody who's on, certainly of a certain age, you're thinking, I could be doing something better. And actually once, it was about a year ago, my wife kind of came late to Facebook. She wasn't interested in anything like that, but then she signed up for Facebook. My sister-in-law moved out to Doha, so it was kind of a way of keeping in touch. And I'm sitting at work one day and I get this friend request from Karen. I'm thinking that must be a wind-up, because she's just completely, just turned her nose up it. So I actually phoned and she said, no, it was Rebecca, one of her daughters, she'd set it up. And I said, look, I'm not going to accept it, right, because I'd rather be your real friend than your Facebook friend. Right. And I never want to be one of those couples where people are commenting stuff on Facebook and they're both commenting to each other when they're sitting beside each other, and you think that's just the art of conversations dying. So things like that, and footballers that wear short sleeves and gloves, I don't get that.
Oh gosh, did I just say oh gosh? I did say oh gosh, didn't I? Right, okay, just as well there wasn't a golly in there.
Irritates me. Well, I don't like bigotry, and in particular orange bigotry, which is prevalent in Scotland. And it was brought home to, never have done, of course, obviously being brought up a Catholic, although I'm not a practising Catholic now. The bigoted genealogist knows I'm Irish and knows I was once a Catholic, so I'm a target from that respect, no matter what state of grace I'm in with the Catholic Church. So I've been the target in various ways, some minor, some more offensive. But the incident that brought home just how harmful bigotry is on people's lives was an incident with my brother Joe, who I've mentioned earlier. Joe lived in Kelty and married a Kelty lassie. And Joe was very active with the local junior football team, and when I had my business, we helped out. The business helped out with the local juniors and my brother, and we had a great working relationship with them, and my brother was part of that community, and he used to say that there was nowhere else. Kelty was the greatest wee village in the world, according to him. And one day he phoned me, and he was heartbroken, and he confided in me. He'd been to the club on the Sunday morning, which was his ritual. He was a heathen like me, he didn't go to church. And he said there was all sorts of people coming over and telling him about a speaker who had been in the club the night before, telling him jokes, anti-Irish, anti-RC jokes, regaling my brother with these stories. And these were his friends, these were the people he drank with every week in that ex-servicemen's club in Kelty. And he told me, he says, Tommy, he says, this place will never be the same again. He said, I'm finished with it. He said, it's got my heart broken. And he didn't tell his wife or anyone else about this, but he told me. And I understood what he was on about. And that day there'd been an Orange Walk in Kelty. And that day there'd been a Scottish International match. And the walkers and the visiting lodges had all decanted into Kelty Club after their walks, and that night there was a speaker on, an after-dinner speaker for the junior football club that we'd supported and my brother felt he was part of, and the guest speaker that night was Donald Findlay QC. And of course Joe got told the stories of this the next day, and I didn't say anything to anybody at the time, but after he died I put my experiences and my feelings about the corrosive effect on oranges as they'd been seen by my brother, and I put them onto a local Dunfermline blog, I called it Bigotry in Fife. I felt strongly about it, and then, some years later, when I saw Donald Findlay had done this again in a club in Larne, I complained to the Faculty of Advocates about it, because whilst what he did in Kelty upset my brother and hurt his feelings, what he was doing in Larne with Andy Gorham was liable to hurt somebody's head, not their feelings. It might be a pipe bomb through the window when he stokes up these sort of feelings in Larne. So as a frequent user of the Faculty of Advocates and their services, I complained to them. And so did another man, a headmaster from Larder, a Mr. Lynch. My complaint and Mr. Lynch's were upheld, and he was found guilty of bringing the Faculty of Advocates into disrepute. But by these antiquated sort of rules the faculty have, although he was found guilty by a tribunal of his peers, he got the option to either take his punishment or face the faculty. So my complaint was finished, the faculty took theirs up, and of course they exonerated him or they found him not guilty. That wee example to me describes how these sort of marches, and Orange or the other type as well, if they're Hibernian, I don't agree with them. I think they're divisive, but particularly Orange marches, I think they drive a wedge right through communities, as they did in Scotland. And there was my brother's love of his wee village and his ex-servicemen's club, all wiped out in one night. And it wasn't even that he was there, it was just that everybody was so keen to tell them the jokes that Donald Findlay and co were telling about him and his like.
I think the lack of self-belief, sometimes the lack of fight that people have got. I look around me at what this government is doing just now, for instance, these condemn bunch of Tory toffs and their Lib Dem hangers-on. You look at a cabinet there, I think there's 29 members of that cabinet, and something like 20 of them are personal millionaires, and you say to yourself, how unfair is it? How unrepresentative is it? They're introducing policies that are slashing the welfare state. They're introducing this bedroom tax, which is a poverty-seeking missile, attacks the poor. You know, because you need to be poor to get housing benefit. The poor tend to live in council or housing association houses. This bedroom tax attacks those people. So it's horrible what goes on. But what upsets me, what irritates me, is the attitude of a lot of people. There's nothing you can do. You know, they shrug their shoulders, their heads are down. Doesn't matter, son, there's nothing you can do. And I experienced that at the start of the poll tax campaign. People said there's nothing you can do. And by the way, they might have had a wee bit more legitimacy for their argument then, because this was Thatcher we were fighting during the poll tax. This was the woman that had taken on the miners, taken on the nurses, the steel workers. She'd taken on Galtieri. According to her, it was single-handed the way she went on about it. So when people were saying, oh, you know, it's the Iron Lady, there's nothing you can do, well, okay, maybe they had a point, but we fought the poll tax. And I say, in any fight on your life, there's no guarantee of victory, never a guarantee of victory. But there is a guarantee that you'll never win if you don't fight. And that's what we have to try and get over to people. And we fought the poll tax, and we melted down the Iron Lady, and we sent her after the political knacker's yard where she belonged, and we managed to break a piece of legislation. And okay, some people say, well, you know, the council tax wasn't much better, and you know, they would have a point. Maybe our failing in the poll tax campaign was we never fought for an alternative to it. We just fought against the poll tax. We never fought for an alternative. So you live and learn. But that was a famous victory that was won by working class people the length and breadth of Scotland, England and Wales.
In what respect? In any respect? In a Chris Commons respect? In a life respect? What irritates me? Oh, loads of stuff. Do you know what? Not a lot, in fairness. I can't get irritated. Being a mum of 3 small children, I've got sort of a good threshold there for not getting irritated. What irritates me in general life, I suppose, is people who are becoming an overnight success for not doing a great deal. So more than ever, we've got more reality TV shows coming along, and people that's not doing a lot, but young children are looking up to these people as role models, and I stand by that quite a lot. My job before being a mum, when I was at work, I used to teach in a college sex education, woohoo, and drug and substance misuse. what a job that were. It was absolutely great. And you would realise that what the latest celebrity was doing or what the latest programme was on telly had a massive influence on what kids were up to and what they were doing. So things like that irritates me. People pretending to be dumber than what they are irritates me as well sometimes. I'm as dumb as I come across. There is no there's no acting on this part. This is it for me. Don't ask me any questions, for goodness sake. There's not a trivia section, is there? There's not a general knowledge question, is there? Just keep it to age 9 to 12 if you do. But no, I suppose that's irritating when people don't give their best, due to their full potential of what you can do. I'm proof of it. My GCSEs you could spell fudge with. There wasn't a lot coming out of it. When I came out of school, I didn't achieve much, but I knew I'd got the gift of the gab, and I knew that I could talk my way into jobs. So with no qualifications, I managed to go into a college, and it took a lot of time. I had to do a lot of training and do it training days and going away for weeks and training that way rather than going to university and even college. But I gave it my all, and that shows that you should try your best at school. If I could go back in time, I would have tried harder at things that I did and not been the class clown as much. But it does show that keep your head down and do your best of what you can do, and you can still end up doing your dream job. Yeah. So Chris has ended up doing his dream job, and he was very lucky that he'd got the talent that he possesses. But for somebody like me who's not very educational, I still ended up doing my dream job, which was doing what I was doing, working with young people, drugs, substance misuse, homelessness, charity sort of things. So, yeah. Didn't really answer that, did I? Beat about the bush and went round 10 different things, but it's all about me today, isn't it? Shall I ask you some questions? No, it's not about you, it's about me. It's all about me.
Apathy. Didn't he explain it? I can't be bothered.